Hi, I'm just running a report to do an export on the attendees so that I can email them all.
Okay.
Because GoToWebinar panel isn't working. I can't do the export through there, which is much easier.
Wow.
So I'm going to have to do a manual report on the back end for connecting up and TechSoup New Zealand to get the attendees list.
Oh,
but let's hope we can get this quickly. Okay. I'll get Pawnee and Catherine to join now.
Okay. That I sent them the recording directly, so they should be okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so where we were at were the three questions that I had posed to you. And those three questions were, how do you currently organize your notes or your work? And this could be around your meeting notes, your projects, your ideas, useful information that you find. Okay, so how do you organize all of that? Second question was, does anyone currently utilize OneNote? If you do, please share what you use that for. And third question is, what would you like to use OneNote for? And I encourage you to please continue posting the answers to these questions in the chat box. Now, I do want to let you know that by default in the Zoom group chat box, it defaults and sends to everyone. So we're having a bit of a community here going on. Now, if you would like to send a private a chat message and you don't want everyone to see, there should be the option where you type just above there, you can pick the name. So what you can do there is actually address the question or your comment or the answer, either to myself, you should see my name there as Joanna Retnam, or you can address it to Tina, and her name in the chat box is TV, okay? So you can do that if you don't want everyone to see what you type in the chat box. So that's just the difference with Zoom and GoTo, okay? So please, I'm sorry for those of you that have to retype, please type the answers to those questions, because as I said, that's going to help me tailor more what I show you in the session. So my plan is to still go through all the things that I want to. I have picked up the pace of how fast I'm speaking. So if it's too fast, tell me to slow down. And also I get faster as I get more excited, and I love my OneNote. So tell me to, and I've also sped up because I know we've only got about 15, 20 minutes left of the original call. But I will keep going just so we get through the content. But if you need to leave for another commitment, please do so. And thank you for those of you that I can see are posting in the Zoom chat. All right, fantastic. Oh, Annabelle, yeah, you're like me. I use it a lot for pretty much everything, even including personal stuff too. Okay, so where we were at was, now there are two versions to OneNote. There is the desktop version, and then there's the application version. To find out what you have, what you want to do is you click on the start button here, or the Windows button here, which is in the bottom left-hand side of my screen, which hopefully you can see. And once you do that, you type in OneNote. And as you start typing in, it's going to narrow down to show you what you have installed or what you have available to you. And you can see here on my screen, I have under applications, I have both OneNote, the application, where it says OneNote, it doesn't have the year against it. So that's the application, the light version. And then you'll see I also have here the desktop version, which is OneNote 16. Now, what is the difference between the two? There are some videos that will give you detail on the difference between the two, and I'll actually we'll provide that link to that video on the difference between the detailed difference between the desktop version and the application version, and you'll get that link after. But in a nutshell, the difference between the two is that the desktop version has a few more features. And the main features that would be of interest to us, or is of great interest to me, is that it has voice recording, okay? So the desktop version, and that's the version that I have open here right now on my screen, it has voice recording. And I've just opened up at the top here. I've got my mousing over it. You can see that it's got that record audio, record video option. Now, obviously, this record video, it's not really for the high quality marketing videos. It's more sort of if I'm in a meeting and I just want to record something really quickly. I personally, between the two recordings, I mainly use the record audio, and I will do that always. I'll ask permission first, and then I'll start the audio recording. And the reason why I would use that is if I am in a meeting where I know there's going to be a lot of information that I am not going to have time to type out, and I want to remember or listen to everything again. So that's when I'll use the record audio. And the nice thing with the record audio is when you start it and you keep typing, it actually keeps place for you. So what that means is it actually syncs up whatever you type in the OneNote page itself. Okay, so I'm just going to start a new page just to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here, if I were to be taking notes and then I hit record audio, what it's going to do is it's going to keep going. And as I type, it's going to actually sync up whatever I say with that point in the page. So where it said as I type, it's actually syncing that up in terms of time. And so if I wanted to jump to that point in the recording, so let's say it's an hour long, and I wanted to jump to it, I can then click to that where whatever I've typed, important point, I can jump to that and then it's going to come up. And I don't even have to say it's important point. It might be something like, yellow, and I want to go, okay, what did we say about the color yellow? And I can jump to that point in my notes, or I don't have to type in any notes either. Okay, so the recording feature, I'm just going to stop that. Hopefully it did not interfere with the Zoom recording. So that's one of the main differences between the desktop version here that I've got up on my screen versus the application, okay? That and the handwriting conversion. I have not personally used the handwriting conversion in the last couple of years, simply because I have found that I type faster than I write. So I do know when I did use it several years ago, it was really good. All you need to do is just set up the hand on your desktop version, set up for OneNote to actually recognize your handwriting. And then off you go, you write, and then it will actually convert whatever you've written by hand into typed text, which is fantastic. Now, obviously, that means you do need to be using a device that has that touch screen capability, such as a Surface, okay? So that's really the main difference between the desktop version and the application version. So the application version is sort of so-called lighter, so it doesn't have and it doesn't use up as many resources on your computer. And we'll look at, the light version. So the light version, if I go here and I go OneNote, you'll see here, that's the light version. I'm going to load that, and you can see it's got sort of like more of that popping purple. Close that. And the light version, or the app version, I should say, is what will load if you have OneNote in Microsoft Teams. And we're going to be looking at that today as well. Okay, so I'm going to close that. And if you have your notebooks located on a central location, a shared location, and again, that's something I'll show you today, such as Teams, which we use at Connecting Up. Whether or not you're using the desktop version or the application, the light version, the information you put in there, it's going to synchronize. It will sync, okay? So you don't have to worry about it being in different places. Okay, so how I use OneNote, the things that I use the most often. So the first thing is, I am a big note taker simply because I forget a lot of things. So I use it really predominantly for taking notes. Now you'll see here as an example, I've got an example personal notebook. And what I want to call out to you here is that this personal notebook that I set up, it is actually sitting on my local machine, or this computer that I am using. So this example notebook, which is this green one, it's got the green tab here. This is only I have access to this. It's sitting on my computer. So unless someone can log into my computer that I'm using, no one's going to be able to see what I have written in here. Okay. And I did that so that you could see, you know, just for the purpose of this session today. Now, what I do predominantly is as mentioned, I type. I type faster than I write, so I type a lot. And I wanted to share with you how I usually do that. So I usually type, as mentioned, and depending on if I'm going to be sharing my notes. So what you've got here, you can see here on the left-hand side of my screen, are all the other notebooks that I have open at the moment. Okay. Now you'll notice here, all of these, the one right underneath my example one is CUIT and Dev Magician's Notebook. That's the title we gave it. Now that when I mouse over it, you'll see that is actually sitting on our Connecting Up Teams. Okay. And Teams actually is powered by SharePoint. So it is sitting in a shared location, which means everyone in my IT and development team can access this notebook. So that's a shared notebook. And you might be wondering, okay, why is that CUIT and Dev Magician's Notebook in bold and the rest are not in bold? Well, it is in bold because someone else in my team has actually gone in here and they've actually made changes or updates or added information to that notebook, and I haven't looked at it yet. So I know that there's something new in there. Okay, so that's really handy. Everything else you can see, it's not in bold. So there's been no new information or no new additions since I last looked at that notebook. Okay, if that makes sense. So all of these, aside from the example personal notebook, everything else that I have open underneath here, all of those sit on our on Teams for us, because those are notebooks that I use to collaborate. We use to collaborate with one another. Okay, so that brings me to, okay, I type up my notes and then I have the option to decide how much styling do I want to apply. So OneNote gives us the ability to style, here with the headers and page titles and all of that. They've got some basic formatting or style formatting that you can find in Word. Okay, so if I know that I'm going to be sharing something with, a wider group, then what I might want to do is I might want to, put in some headers and just put some styling so it's easier to read. Okay. Most of the time when it is just for me, I will simply use basic text. I'll number it or dot point it, whatever I need to. And what I'll also do for me is I am big on my screen clips. So I love a screenshot because for me, picture takes 1,000 words. So what I can do here with OneNote is OneNote allows me in the desktop version to actually take a screen clip. So if I hit this right now, you'll see it's come up here and I've got the ability to take a screen snip. And I've just taken that screen snip and it's immediately, I didn't have to copy and paste. It just snapped almost, like the camera, it snapped it, took a snip of whatever I had open in the background behind my OneNote, okay? So I've just inserted a screen clip and I love my screen clips here. So when I have a screen clip, usually what I'll then do for me personally is I'll then either want to highlight or call out, okay, which is it, what is it that I want to know here? So that's where the draw capability comes in. Now this is, again, this means you'll need it, you're using a device that has the touch screen capability, which I have on today. So what I'm going to do here is I actually want to highlight some important points. So I'm going to select my highlight color being blue. And again, you have the option here to select whatever different colors you like. You can add different colors as well with the highlight. So I'm just going to pick the blue and I'm going to say, okay, well, this is an important point for me. So I'm going to highlight that. So I'm just using my finger to highlight that, okay? Then I might want to say, oh, this point here needs attention. That's me writing. You can see why I typed most of the time. So I'm just calling out things that, you know, of the screen grab that I've just taken here. Okay, and if I didn't like that, I can always erase that. You can see me erasing what I've written. Looks like let me shaking up the whole screen. Okay, so I can just erase that if I want to. Okay, so that's me using the draw capability here. Now, another thing that I often do, and my colleagues would know this, I love a table, organizing information via a table. So here, usually what I'll do is that insert option here. I'm just going to ask some of you to mute yourselves, please. That for those of you that just joined, with Zoom, you're not automatically muted. So please hit the mute button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Thank you. Okay, so what I love a good table to organize my information. So I can insert tables here, and similar with the, now it doesn't have the level of formatting that you can do if you did a table in Word, or if you, you know, or if you're using Excel to put information in a table. But it does have some, you know, some basic features. So I can use a basic table here, person attending, point of view, action required, you know. So I can do that and start collecting information. And I can do some formatting here if I needed to with this. I can make that bold and then go from there, okay? Now, let's say you'll see here with this table that I've just inserted, I've just said, okay, person attending. So I'm going to go, I know Tina is in here. Her point of view is ambivalent about OneNote. Putting words into your mouth here, Tina. And can't spell as well. Right click and correct that spelling. Now, action required, maybe it might be, I don't have an action here, but it's an important point, which brings me to my tags. I love the tags in OneNote. So I've just opened up the tag list here. So hopefully you can see that. I know it's a little bit small, but the thing I want to call out here is that you can customize your tags, okay? And we're going to look at that next. But I want to say, okay, well, this is an important point for me right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up my tags, and you can see I often mark things as important. I'm going to put a star against that, okay? So when I then scroll or just cast my eyes over this, my eyes are going to be drawn to the star. Now, that's just how I work. For me, I want to put a star next to what's important. You might decide that you want to put the exclamation mark, or you might want to, you know, highlight it. So you can select the text and highlight, okay? So you can decide how you want to use the tags, which brings me to customizing the tags. So I sometimes will do a customization, and here I've opened up the customized tags. And what I want to do here is I want to do a new tag, and I want to use some of the symbols that's available here. So one symbol that I will use when I'm planning, you know, something personal most of the time is the little airplane icon. So for those, and this, you know, it's not just a personal, you know, this is not just for personal things. You know, you might travel for work as well. And if you fly for work, then that might be a good one. So you might want to say flight instead of travel, but I'm adding that as a little symbol. So again, if there's ever a time where, or I've made a note, oops, that was the alert. If I've made a note about travel or I'm planning travel, I can tag that item here. I'm just going to go, okay. And now that's going to add that new icon, that new tag into my tag list, okay? So that's me and my tags. You'll see the ones that I most often use are the to-do, the important, the idea, and the critical. Those are the ones that I use most often, okay? And that's just based on how I work. All right. So that's the tags. I seriously love those. Now, another one in the tags that I often do is the to-do. And that's why it was right at the top of the list. Because again, with the to-do, pass my eyes over something and quickly jump to, okay, what is it I needed to do? Or if it's a shared note, I can mark it as to-do and put the initials of the person that needed to action to do this action item, okay? And if it's a shared notebook, they'll be able to see it. So speaking of shared notebooks, I want to share with you how we do that and how we use it to collaborate here at Connecting Up. So I'm going to open up Microsoft Teams. And if you don't have Teams, it doesn't mean that you can't use OneNote to collaborate. All you then need to do is have save your OneNote book to a central location, to a shared drive, or if you have, or to SharePoint. So you just need to have saved your OneNote to a central location that is accessible to the people that you want to collaborate with, okay? Now for us at Connecting Up, we have Microsoft Teams and we've been using it. So you'll see here, I've got an example team site that I created for today's purpose because we have some confidential information in our existing team site, so I can't bring those up on the recording. So I've got here the example team site, and I've added a couple of my colleagues that are in the session with me today. And some of them might be going here. And yes, Catherine, she read my mind and she's posted right there. Hello, thank you. Gonna thumbs up that, love it. Now what I want to do here is I want to create a shared OneNote where Catherine, Purni, Tina, and I can work together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click Add Tab. And this is just one of the many ways that you can create a OneNote. I'm going to click on OneNote. And it's going to give me the option here, once it loads, to create a new notebook, as you can see there with the plus sign, or I can actually mirror one of those existing notebooks that I have already open and mirror it here. So it's not a duplicate, okay? It's just presenting that. If I were to select one that's already open, one that's already existing, it's not duplicating it. It's simply mirroring, it's reflecting that notebook here, okay? But for this example, I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to click Create New Notebook, and it's going to let me name it. And I'm going to say our team site example notebook, okay? And I'm going to click Save. And that's now going to create a new notebook within this team site. Now, immediately, what you're going to be able to see is what it's loading here is actually the application, the light version of OneNote, okay? So here it's empty because it's new. I'm just gonna tab in so you can see, okay, here I can add a section, which are those tabs at the top. Or I might name it section 1. And and if you see new ones pop up, don't be surprised because Tina, Purni, and Catherine, my colleagues, all have access to this, so they may well be adding to this as well. Then I've got an untitled page here, and I don't have to necessarily name that page. You know, I don't have to name it from here. I can name it here on the page itself. Page 1 of collaboration. Okay, and then when I go across, you'll see that has already come across here. Yep. Okay, so here I can then take my notes, I can insert images, so on and so forth. And especially here, if I say, finish recording and send to everyone. So here, I want to make this, you know, this one I want to make into a to-do, right? So I'm going to go view and I want to tag it, go to my tags, do a to-do. Okay, and I'm going to say this is going to go to Tina. So she's got access to this, and when she completes that, she can check this box once she's done. And then we all know, okay, that task has been finished. So what this allows us to do is to collaborate and have access to the information and progress real time. Now, this is something that I often do with our IT team here, and I'm actually opening this up, and you'll see we have a list of priorities, start items, and things to check off. Okay, so I just brought that up real quick again because I just for confidentiality purposes. Okay, so I'm back in my desktop version now, and what I should be able to do here is I can open that shared notebook here. So if I go to File and I go to Open, I now have the option to pick up that example notebook from here. So I know it is on, now let's see, do I have it? If it's in my shortcuts? No, it's not. So what I would want to do here is map out to, okay, where is this located? And then I can bring it back in. Okay, so that's what I would be doing here in order to bring that notebook, that shared notebook into my desktop version. And that way, it's all syncing to the one notebook, which actually sits on SharePoint. Okay, all right. So that is how we collaborate at Connecting Up. And you'll see here how I've structured or how we structure our work is because we work across teams. So what we do is what we've done is we've actually structured our work based on the initiative or based on the project that we're working on. That's how we've structured it. Now, I also have my the teams that are part of my overarching umbrella. And for those, I've got a notebook with them just sort of operationally. And then we also have notebooks for our projects. So for example, here, the CUIT and Dev Magicians, that's sort of an operational notebook with my weekly catch-ups with the team. My grants and sponsorship notebook, everyone at Connecting Up has access to that, and that sits on our grants and sponsorship team site, okay? So we don't have to be, oh, thank you, Tina. Look at that, she's done that. So we can go, everyone can go into the team site and they can see what we've added into that notebook as well. And because it's a tab, it's as simple as, okay, we're looking at files, okay, and then we can click over to the notebook and we can see what's been updated in the notebook, and we can add as well to the notebook. So everything's it just gives that level of visibility and facilitates that collaboration. And what then happens here is things don't get lost, where Tina might have sent an email saying, hey, that's all done. Now it's as simple as it's in the notebook, she's ticked it off, put a nice smiley face there as well. We can all see it 2 months from now or whenever, okay? Now, the other thing about OneNote that I really, really like is the ability to search all of my notes. So here you can see I've just clicked, and this is on the sort of top right-hand side of the screen. You can see here I have the ability to click on the search box here and actually search through all of my notes. So what I might want to do here is I'm going to type in Tina, and you can see that's all come up wherever her name is. I'm going to say website. You'll see here, first it brings up where the word website exists in a notebook, and you can see website refresh project, and then it's brought up website in any of the pages that has the word website. So before, where for those of you that were in here earlier, and I said, back a few years ago, I was, actually more than a few years ago now, when I used to use my written ring-bound notebooks, I couldn't actually do this. I couldn't search. I would have to flick through every page. And in a year, I would go through 4 to 5 of those notebooks, A4 notebooks, right, with whatever I'm writing. So this allows me to search. Love it. And I know we're almost out of time. Another thing I just want to show you quickly is what I've often used the drawing capability for. Yeah, drawing is fun. But what I also do is for those of you that often do brainstorming sessions, design thinking sessions, or it's just the way you organize your notes, the ability to draw with OneNote. Now, if you don't have a touchscreen, you can still draw using your mouse. Okay, so you would use your mouse, click on whatever it is you wanted, and then draw with your mouse. It's not easy to do. Maybe those of you that are more used to working with design, the older design tools, it might be easy, but it's not for me. So unfortunately, I do have a touch screen. So one of the ways that I always go to a blank page is when I am trying to map out a process, because it allows me to go, okay, step 1 to step 2. And then I go to I want to actually, don't want that. So I'm going to use to step 2, which is a decision point. Okay, so if yes, we go to step 3. And if no, we're going to go to step 4. Okay, so it allows me to draw, a series of events and map things out. And then if things change, because often if we're working through a process or an idea, things change. Then I can do one of two things. I can erase, which you've already seen me do, or I can use a different pen, cross that out and say, step 1. This is the new step 1. Okay, so this allows me to very quickly reflect, and just that flexibility of, it almost acts like a whiteboard. And if we're all sharing to this notebook, multiple people can be drawing in here as well at the same time. So that's really nice. And then if I sort of went, okay, well, I've got the process down, but really what I want to do now is I want to detail a narrative. So I can then start the narrative or the story to step 1. And I can keep going. And with this, I can do all of my basic text functionality. I can make that into subpoints and keep going. And the nice thing is, because these little text box, I can move them around. I could just move that right up to step 1. And so I'm not tied to either or. I don't have to go, okay, I can only type. And if I start typing, I can't draw. No, you have the flexibility with OneNote, okay? So the other thing I wanted to quickly show you is the ability to actually insert and print information into your OneNote. So you saw me take a screen snip earlier. Another thing that I personally really enjoy doing is I really like doing a printout. So especially when there's a lot of instructions, and you can see here I've got the instructions from the Microsoft Office support site on how to create a OneNote notebook. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to right click on the browser, and you'll see it's giving me the print option, or you can hit Control P. I'm going to click the print option, and what it's going to allow me to do here is I can send this in the destination. I can choose. I can send it to a printer, and then I can do all my highlighting, but then I'm going to be stuck with a stack of paper. Or I can send it to OneNote. Now, I could save it as a PDF and save the article in a folder or something, right? But I want to send it to OneNote because I can then search, I can highlight, so on and so forth. So I'm going to send to OneNote. And I've chosen to print in black and white. You can choose to print in color if you like, okay? And that will then bring up the color. So you have the options there. Okay, so I'm sending it to OneNote, and then I'm going to click print. Now what's going to happen is OneNote is going to flash. You can see down there it's flashing. I'm going to open up, and it's now saying, okay, where do you want to save this printout of this article that you're reading? So here I have the option, so you can see this is the list of all of my notebooks, and I can decide where it goes. So I want to save it in my personal notebook, and I want to save it in articles. And I've already got another article in there. So I'm not gonna select the page. I'm simply going to select the section or the tab. And the section or the tab is articles. I'm gonna select that, and I'm going to click OK. Now what it's going to do, it's immediately going to do that printout. and here it is, okay? Now I'm gonna rename that printout and I'm gonna say how to create notebook in OneNote, Windows 10, okay? And then what I have the option here is, again, if I go to draw, I have the option to highlight and do what, or even write my own notes. So I just did a line and, okay. So that's something that I really like to do because I find it really useful. So one of the things that we've adopted here at Connecting Up is Agile, and our CEO sent us out some articles. You'll see this is a previous one that I read, and for me, I'm a big highlighter, so things jump out at me. So you can see that's me highlighting the article. So I actually printed it into my OneNote and highlighted it. And as I keep going, I can add notes to say, okay, I want to implement with project team A. And I can then here make that a to-do as well. Okay, so let's say I want to implement this initiative with team A. So I've just moved that right there. Okay, and then if I did a search for the word team A, it's going to bring up anything that has, not team A, it's going to bring up any, first of all, any notebook, any tab, or any page that has the word team. And I can obviously keep narrowing that down, okay? So that's that feature. So this is another one that I use a lot. And the last one that I'll talk to today, and then we'll wrap, is I really, especially when it's a shared meeting, I will very often go from my calendar. So here you can see my calendar here. And what I'm going to do is I right click and I say meeting notes. Okay. So if I right click on the meeting invite and hit meeting notes, it's going to give me the option here to take my own notes. The organizer hasn't shared notes. So I'm going to take my own notes. And when I do that, again, it brings up the option for me to say, okay, where do you want to take these notes? Do you want to take it in your personal notebook? And I put there, no one's going to see this. Or do you want to put it in a shared location? Because as an example, I am going to put it in my example notebook so I can easily find it and I'm not creating clutter. And I'm going to say, okay, this is going to be in my weekly catch up. And if I pop it in there and click OK, what's now going to happen is it's now created a new page in my OneNote with the title of the meeting. It's brought in the meeting name, meeting date, the location of the meeting. If there were any details in that Outlook meeting invite, it's going to bring that in as well. Okay, and that's just linked me back. The invitation message and who the participants are. And then I can here tick off, okay, I can take both of us attended. So it even allows me to take attendance. Love that. Okay, then from here, I can start taking the notes that I want. And again, that's free. You can write, you can record, you can type, or do a combo. Okay, so these are some of the ways that I use OneNote. I have been using OneNote for the last, since it pretty much came out. And I have found it really useful, and I'm always discovering new things about OneNote. So hopefully this has been helpful to you, giving you some ideas, and you'll start to use your OneNote too, or make more use of it. So this is the end of, we'll wrap here. What I am going to do is I am going to go through the chat box questions now, and I'll stay on for a bit more for anyone that would like to stay. But otherwise, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to connecting with you again. Okay. Hi, Mark. Did you have a question? Oh, brilliant. Yes. You're welcome. Right, I'm going to stop the recording.